welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price. You know that music, that means he's here. The one and only taxman Bob Loeser. He's going to come in and help us sort through the big crunch as we're getting down to almost hours, forget about days, as we are in the first month of the second quarter of this year. I'm just like, where does time go?
Good morning first. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having so much fun. We're, 11 days now, 10, 11 days from the tax deadline, the 15th. For those that think or want to think that if they file e-file, they're going to get their refund back in 3 to 5 days, double, possibly triple that at this point in time. The government is, let's use the term reluctant to release their funds for those who are getting refunds. They're more so waiting for those that owe tax by April 15th to pay so that they have money in the coffers to use to pay those who are getting their refunds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so I imagine you got a lot of scrambling going on. Do you work a lot of extra hours the last 30 days before April 15th?
Yeah, Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, Saturdays and Sundays, for the most part, for me, are quiet. The phone's not ringing off the wall, so you can devote time to those, more attentive returns that you have to deal with that have, publicly traded partnerships, 3 or 4 rental properties, bought and sold a house during the year, those types of things that are not just the standard 3 W-2s, 2 kids, and a mortgage.
So you do your heavy lifting during that time.
Correct. So, I mean, I'd say from first part of March until 15th of April, it's anywhere from 65 to 75 hours a week.
What do you want people to know at this time?
Well, they need to know that certainly the more that they can come to the table with, use the term legitimate deductions, the better off they're going to be, and the better the filing will be. But do note that if you're filing not e-file but regular, it'll take anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks as you get closer to April 15th to get your refund back. I would send those returns that you are getting a refund back, certified return receipt, because then the government, it's in their hands in knowing that I think it's 6 weeks. If they don't give you your money back in 6 weeks, the interest clock starts. Mm-hmm. That they pay you some interest. So.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so, meanwhile, it's not like the federal government or the state defers to the federal government with their tax issues and the local governments. What other tax things are happening out there that people may be losing because of the fact they're so concerned about April 15th?
Well, I mean, we have, of course, the corporate returns were due on March 15th. The corporate S-corps also due March 15th, do affect your personal return because the income or loss from those S-corps flow through to the individual shareholders' returns. So you can't do your personal return without having, if you do have an S-corp or you belong to an S-corp, have that return prepared and taken care of. Now, many of ours are already done so that we're working towards getting the rest of it done. It's the regular oil and gas companies, the publicly traded oil and gas companies that are just getting around last week and this week to sending out their K-1s that we've been waiting for to finish up the preparation of the return. But you have state franchise, that is due on May 15th. So you either have an extension on May 15th and a guesstimate of how much you'll owe the state if your sales are over $1,080,000, or you'll file the return, your corporate return, and file your franchise return by May 15th. Mm-hmm. Trusts and partnerships are actually due return-wise by April 15th. So that's why a lot of preparers out there haven't gotten around to preparing some of these K-1s, because their thought is, well, I've got until April 15th. The only negative to that is if you hand the client, the individual, their K-1 on April 14th, then their preparer has 1 day to prepare the return. Mm-hmm. That's the negative.
That is the negative. Talking again to Bob Loeser. We call him Taxman Bob around here, keeping people out of trouble, helping people understand what's happening. As far as the tax environment out there, I'm hearing that that this is probably a good year for extensions because of audits and that type of thing. That's what the rumor has it. But they come up with these rumors every year, and I don't know if they ever hold out. What do you hear as far as that? What's your thoughts about
as
that?
We use a couple times a year on the show, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. I mean, that's my
producer. That's our producer, Sigmund Kramer.
It's not true. It's not true in regards to, my theory is if everybody filed on April 14th or 15th and got the returns in, there's less likelihood of their return being plucked for audit. Mm-hmm. Okay? I mean, unless there's items on there that stand out with flashing red lights that the preparer himself says, hey, Bill, you're going to be audited, there's a good chance you got 4 items on here that they could pull and ask questions about. If not, the more likely, if you go past April 15th and don't file until August or September 15th, figuring your theory there, I think you're going to be more likely to be audited.
Man, that's when we need that dramatic dun-dun-dun music. Right. Absolutely. Right. That's not good. That is not good.
Mean, but it also all comes down to, despite the fact that they tell you they've got more staff, I'd say to you, no more than 1% of the returns are audited out there. All right? So, and if you're doing it, I use the term right, and not being excessive or aggressive, then that drops probably to half of that, half a percent. So again, unless you're making $80,000 and your charitable contributions are 50 on your return, and that lights up the board and saying, how can this person who makes 80 afford 50? And then find out later that they just inherited, $3 million so they could afford $50,000 of charity. Those returns will be audited, but the ones that have 80 and are giving $2,500 away in charity aren't going to be audited because it doesn't stand out as to above their threshold.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So, with the last couple of days, it's kind of late now. We warned people back in November to hurry up and clean out their closets and clean out their garage and that type of thing. But is there anything, from a mitigation perspective to help them they can do between now and 15th? A
couple things, and one thing I want to remind me of another item in a minute. Sales tax on vehicles and new purchases. Or if you've redone your home and you didn't do it through a contractor that said that the construction is going to be $15,000 flat, and they did it on piecemeal as they bought lumber at Home Depot or Lowe's, then the sales tax is deductible there. You bought a vehicle in November, December, a $40,000 vehicle, 8%, $3,200, that's deductible. But one last issue, you had asked the question earlier, what other taxes? Harris County, Montgomery, Fort Bend, etc., have their appraisal district property renditions that are due on April 15th. And they're due on April 15th, or you can extend them 30 days. If you don't extend them, it's an automatic 10% penalty on whatever is owed. So you give a rendition, your assets are $60,000, they tax you $800, there's going to be an $80 penalty for not filing either the return by April 15th or an extension by April 15th. So if those business owners or those that are owning and operating equipment for business use need to be aware that they need to file within the next 10 days, either an extension or a return.
Very good. Taxman Bob is what we call him, Bob Loeser. Taxman Bob at pdq.net. That's Taxman Bob at pdq.net. And then what is your number?
Phone number 713-953-1272. 713-953-1272. And operators are standing by.
Next time, I'd like to have a conversation a little bit about some of the macro like we often do.
Sure.
I saw yesterday that now more than 1 out of 7 people are on food stamps, which I find shocking. And I also found that, Obamacare met his goal, but his goal is, 2% of the population
right.
to have been enrolled by the final so-called final deadline. I mean, it's a bizarre world. We'll get into that next time.
That's like saying in the Boston Marathon, well, I finished the race. Not I finished in the top 10, but I finished the race.
Right. It was about 3 hours after the lights went out, but I got there.
Right.
I picked up a wheelchair along the way and was able to get across the line. Anyway, so good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you're in great shape, by the way, considering this time of the year. Good to see you.
No bags under my eyes, yeah.
Yeah, you look good, actually. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdatareview.com, and this is The Price of Business.
There's one for you, 19 for